Maya can still do her thing. Maya still has her tools, her mechanisms, and I'll say sometimes she cheats because she's inside of us and knows stuff about us. It's like if your enemy, his weaknesses, it's easier to attack your enemy, right? So because Maya knows our weaknesses, she can attack our weaknesses, our faults, our flaws. We all have them, right? So it's tough because, we can't, it's hard to defeat Maya on our own. We have to have someone who can, save us. There's not a better word. It's like if you're drowning in the ocean and someone comes and they pick you up. I mean, what word could you use? You could say, stop by to say hello, bless me. No, they saved you from the drowning ocean. We are saved from the material energy by the mercy of the pure devotee. So knowledge is inserted here in a very important way. Knowledge comes by hearing. If you hear, like if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, there are different sections. Like when you read in the early stages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll read sections that very much deliberately help one to understand you're not the body. Such as Sankhya philosophy spoken by Kapila, Lord Kapila Dev, to his mother Devhuti. It's a very long section in Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's intended for the purpose, the first thing is to give us knowledge how analytically to understand you're not this body. How? To divide everything up. It divides all the material elements up and explains this body is composed of, everything is composed of the different elements and the senses and the mind, and it goes on, right? Each one of them explains it in detail what they are. Kind of like in a detached way, you start to understand there's something separate from you. You're not these elements. You're not these, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. You're not these senses, tongue, mind, belly, you're not any of this stuff. At the end of the day, Lord Kapila explains, Brahman, your soul, your spirit soul. And he goes further, and he said the way to free the self from this illusion is by bhakti. Every time you read, you all come to the platform of bhakti yoga. And some people in the beginning especially, sometimes we think the yogis who can stand on one leg, on their head or whatever, that they're real, they're more austere yogis. They think, I'm a real yogi. And these people who are just chanting and dancing, Now, how's that yoga? Yoga means to stand and twist and breathe and etc. And they got a point in the sense that they're talking about a system of yoga. It's called the Eightfold Mystic Yoga Path. We understand that. It rises, each path leads to another path. It's like a ladder. And you can go up this ladder if you have, say, 100,000 years or so. Trouble is, you don't even live 100 years. Plus, all they do is sit down and go to sleep. So you can't practice that yoga in this age. It's impossible. But Srila Prabhupada came and he brushed aside these bogey yogis. He gave us knowledge. By association with the pure devotee, we became enlightened. Because, I'm embarrassed to tell this story, but in the early days, I didn't want to be a devotee. I didn't. It was too tough for me. People just didn't respect me properly. They were in my space too much. Right? He kept his sleeping bag was too close to my sleeping bag. Right? And we sit down to eat prasadam, and people would say rude things while I'm trying to eat. Right? And some people were just weird. Right? They would chant weird, they dance weird, and I'm like thinking, this is not for me. I belong in a more, appreciative environment where people appreciate me. My mind was like, Maya was just dragging me down. So I thought, well, I'm going to find some yoga school, right? So I wait till no one's around, and I go in the temple phone, and I pick up the phone, and I look in the phone book, and I call up a yoga school, and I said, can you tell me something about your yoga path? And he said, the first thing he said, well, you know we're all God, right? I said, damn. Oh, no. What was I thinking? What a fool, you know? It's like Krishna, I swear to God, the first words out of his mouth. You know we're all God, right? Oh my God, Prabhupada had already instilled in me, no, we're not all God. You know, I know better than that. You know, Prabhupada already told me better than that. And so, it's like the old story about being in the mafia. You've heard that story? It's like the guy's in the mafia, and he starts thinking, I want to go home with my family. I miss my family. I just want to be a normal guy, right? This mafia stuff, it's not for me. So he tells them, hey guys, I want out. And they said, look, you know too much. We can't let you out now. You see, it's the same way. Once you become fixed in the understanding of Krishna consciousness by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, then Maya can't get you anymore. Maya wants to get you, and Maya will try to get you. Like Prabhupada sometimes said, the devotee will have a temporary fall down, but he still should be considered saintly. Why? Because he's a devotee. He's already committed himself. He's already given up his desire to be in the material world, but it's kind of like a little fan that keeps turning for a while. Maya keeps hitting you with it, right? But at some point, Prabhupada points out, and it's pointed out throughout Bhagavatam, if we persevere, if we stay in association of devotees, and if we remain enthusiastic, what happens is the dirty things are gradually removed from the heart. The desires that keep us attached. If you go down and you realize at the end of the day, our problems all stem from, as we discussed the other day in Bhagavad Gita, Danakeli pointed out, and Arjuna said, what makes a man who's trying to be a devotee, what makes him still chase his senses, What makes him still act like, he goes off and falls down? What happened? Why? Why can't, you just be a devotee? So Krishna said, it's lust only, Arjuna, born of contact with the modes of material nature. At the end of the day, whatever body we're in the material world. Material world is generic. It's generic. It affects us all the same way. We're all in the same prison house, right? One of us may be in cell block C and, get to watch TV more. One of us may be in cell block D and, get to have people come and perform for you on the weekend, whatever. But we're all in the same prison house. We're locked in prison. You can't do what you want because we're in a material body. We have to take birth. We have to die. We're in prison. So, how are we shackled here? What keeps us in prison? It's like the door is open, basically. But we can't get out of it because there's something that keeps us, this invisible force that keeps us locked up. And that is lust. Lust is just a word, right? But lust, in its deeper analysis, comes down to the fact that I'm attached to being the enjoyer. I have to be the center. Prabhupada said, we come to the material world the moment we think, I don't want to be the dominated, I want to be the dominator. And you try to get somebody, like one time I was speaking with my aunt. She was a cool lady. She was like 80-something years old or something. We were talking with her. And I was just trying to speak, in a term she could understand. And I said, the Lord just wants us all to be His servant. She said, He don't want us to be His servant. Like she was just incredulous. Why would you want to be His servant? Like a servant with a dirty word, Yeah. So it's like it was an expose of how the material world really is, No one wants to be the servant. Everyone wants to be the master, right? But in the spiritual world, guess what? It's the highest ecstasy. It's ecstasy beyond anything we can comprehend. Prabhupada said, it's millions of times greater pleasure in the spiritual world, serving Krishna every second. So what are we doing now? We're practicing. How do we practice? Well, there's different ways, but the safest way is in kirtan rasa. Right? Because in kirtan rasa, in Kali Yuga, the Lord has come in His holy name. So devotional service is also kirtan. It's not just cooking and cleaning. It's also chanting the Lord's holy name in kirtan. And as you chant in kirtan, that's when you get the most realizations. This morning, during Mangalarti, Srimati Radharani joined in the kirtan. Come back! She was in the kirtan with us. She was so ecstatic. Her crown fell down. No reason. People say, oh, it's just gravity, blah, blah. No. Whenever Srimati Radharani does anything, it's not anything material. It's totally spiritual. Preeti Shah. Leading such a sweet kirtan, Mangalarti, I've never been in a more sweet kirtan. I'm as dull-headed as they come, right? But in that kirtan, I'm telling you right now, even a dull-headed fool could experience spiritual happiness. It was a blissful, sweet kirtan. Everybody felt it. Everybody was there felt it. Afterward you saw everybody with this ecstatic look on their face, Kirtan is the chants where we just drop all the superficial stuff, the mind. Because the mind is the problem. The mind. Mayavansa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastani indiyani prakritistani karsati. This is the essence. I won't go much longer, but I want to say this one point. Krishna says, the living entity in this material world is my eternal fragmental part. But due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. So if you tell somebody, Prabhu, you don't sing, well, guess what? You don't play the kartals right. Isn't it? Prabhu, you should wear a doing. Prabhu, why are you always telling people what to do? Prabhu, you should, maybe stand this way. Prabhu, I stand the way I want. You don't know how to stand. No one's going to say, oh yes, Guruji. I'm so appreciative of your instruction. Thank you so much, Sadhu. Hare Krishna. Huh? Is that what happened? No. Why? Because we have a mind, and in that mind's job is to protect us from what? From becoming dominated. We have a dominator alert. Someone trying to dominate me. No, I'm not here to be dominated. I'm here to be the dominated over. Huh? I could have stayed in the spiritual world if I wanted to be dominated. I came here to dominate. Huh? So let me dominate. How many lifetimes do you want to dominate? Whatever it takes. I want to be the number one dominator. Huh? But what happens? Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. Right? So here we are. By Krishna's grace, it explained clearly by hearing the pastime association with pure devotee. So Srila Prabhupada came here in 1975 in July, and he walked here at this holy dham. Now this is a tirtha for 10,000 years. It will grow. We can't think right now about what we see here at this new dham. No, think 1,000 years from now, what will we hear? A huge assembly house where people come and they speak the pastimes of the Lord with huge gatherings with greatly erudite scholars. And the transcendental mellow of chanting Hare Krishna will reverberate all over this area. This will become transcendental Vrindavan. so many people will go back home, back to Godhead from here, from this Nam. It's a fact. It's done. So we can't see it, we're in it, right? But we have the potential to be part of that by developing it, what we can now, what we leave, others will pick up on, others will pick up on. This is our spiritual oasis and wonderful situation. We can't think of it in any other way. And gradually we have to wean away ourselves from the material contaminations that it speaks about here in our heart. And these material contaminations come in the form of, trying to enjoy an old habit pattern that we have, that we've developed. We get into a habit pattern. As you get older, you have a chance, at least at the end game, if we develop it in our early life. Prabhupada said, if you really get serious in the early stages, you young people, listen to me. I'm giving you some good advice, and it's free. I'm not trying to cheat you. I'm telling you the truth. Like Prabhupada used to say, I'm not flattering you. If you give it a good effort now, when you get old and you can't hardly walk, you can't hardly go to the bathroom, you can't do nothing, your body's finished, you're hurt all over, you're bewildered, you can't hear, your teeth are falling out. What you got left? It's a pitiful old age material body, right? But at this stage of the game, like sometimes I offer my obeisances, and just like you have bad memories, you also have good memories. And those good memories of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, they keep me going. Prabhupada came to me in different times. When I was very serious about devotional service, when I gave it a good go, when I really surrendered, Prabhupada rewarded me by coming to me and blessing me with his association. So the key is, it's not easy. You have to form yourself. You have to be serious. You have to try. But if you give it your best try, then later in life, when your body is basically no longer, so young and attractive as we think it is, right? Then we're able to at least become fixed. So we prepare to transmigrate, and in our next lifetime, we're assured of a spiritual birth of some sort, whatever Krishna wants. But it's assured of a spiritual birth, free of some sort. Whatever it may be. We may be in Krishna's Leela, we may be in Prabhupada Leela, we may be in Lord Chaitanya Leela, we may be somewhere fixed in Krishna consciousness. But if you do that, when you transmigrate, Krishna says it. How's it? Janma karma chame devam yoveti tattva one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and disappearance is not upon leaving his body return to the material world, but attains my eternal abode. So it's a fact. If we keep trying and give it effort, when you get older, it'll be a little bit easier because, what am I going to do? Go back to school or something? It's over. You finish, right? So we immerse ourselves in chanting and hearing and remembering Krishna, talking about Krishna, serving Krishna, giving everything we can to Krishna. So we're going, Narayan is going with Jayanti Friday, and we're going to get another cow or two from a brown Swiss herd. So that's a blissful thing. We're going to have two more. We're trying to save as many cows as we can. They need more milk cows because we lost so many cows this year. So like that. So anybody wants to become part of that Shakti, if you want to give some donation to Jayanti or Narayan, we're giving something, and they're going to purchase some couple cows. They're going to pick them up. It will help them a little bit. So, any questions or comments, please? Yes, ma'am.
I just had a comment when you were talking about the dominator and the dominated.
Yes.
Years ago, when we still had wood-burning stoves in the kitchen, HG Prabhu, Kavichanda Maharaj, and my Guru Maharaj, Srila Jayapataka Swami, we were walking and they said, you have to boil the milk 3 times.
Said what?
Huh?
What'd you say?
That you have to boil the milk 3 times. And I said, well, I think we boil it once on these wood-burning stoves. They're like, no, you have to boil it 3 times. I said, I didn't know that. Ravindra Prabhu looked at me, Rupanuka Prabhu is what it was. He looked at me and goes, you knew that. I said, I didn't know that. And they said, no, you knew that. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know it. And Ravindra Prabhu said, the problem is, no one wants to preach anymore. No one wants to instruct anyone. And then Kavi Chandra Maharaj looked at me and goes, don't expect any thank yous. So just like you were saying, that it's so difficult, when you try to instruct someone in Krishna consciousness or in anything. The first defense, they're defensive, become angry. Instead, in the old days, people wanted to hear. Now we think we know everything. No one can teach us anything more.
And it's an art form, it's really, like Srila Prabhupada when he first came, he would stand in line for the bathroom.
Right.
Can you imagine? He would tell them, they're trying to quit smoking. He said, just smoke 1 in the morning, 1 at night, and think this is very bad for my spiritual life. So he was loving, kind, very, he didn't demand anything. And gradually, everything just came, and people realized more and more that Prabhupada was a pure devotee, and that, they should try to follow his instructions more and more. So it's really about gaining the trust and love. Like, the best leader is the best servant. If we're able to serve the Vaishnavas, that's one thing I find we don't have enough of in our temple leadership particularly, is that learning how to serve the Vaishnavas. Every Vaishnava should be, any leader should see them as his children, as his people that he wants to take care of, that he wants to serve. And that pleases Prabhupada. That's what pleases. Like one time the Guru Maharaj was here, Srila Japataka Maharaj, and there were some people that came to see him when he was here. Adi Gopi, nice devotee girl that grew up here. And so, we put her up in the massage room at the shop, and our guest room we had there at the time. And so, Japataka Maharaj was here on the Vyasa-san, and so they were talking, and it was after class, and they're standing there, and he said, do you have a place to stay? And she said, DviBhuja is letting us stay at his place. And he turned to me, gave me that look, that look he gives of like, pleased with you, for caring for devotees, helping devotees, It's nothing wrong with it. It's not a bad thing. It's not like they're going to become a welfare state or something. You give them something they ain't earned it. It's like, we serve the Vaishnavas. We help them. We try to give them whatever we can. By the grace of God, if we have more, we give more. If we have whatever we have, we share. And this sharing mood is very pleasing to Prabhupada. Prabhupada wants us to become sharers. With whatever we have, Prabhu, yes, let me help you, You don't have any clothes, Prabhu, I have so much. You need food, come to the garden, pick as much. As a matter of fact, I'm telling everybody, please pick, we have so many greens. Donna Katie's going nuts in the garden trying to keep up with it, everybody, please, if you want some greens, come get them. It's not like a weird thing. So it gives me great pleasure to see it. We're at that point. We have enough that we can honestly say that. It used to be like, don't pick too much, you won't have fun of these. Now it's like, please pick. We got too much, Just don't pick the cabbage. We don't have to.
Or the broccoli.
Or the broccoli. Eat the broccoli on.
Can you pick carrots?
Huh?
Can you pick carrots?
Yeah, carrots, we're doing pretty good. We can get a few,
It's starting to get big, some
Yeah.
on the edges.
Yeah.
You just gotta look for what's poking out of the soil.
She-Rod comes out with his bag and says, I'm going to Whole Foods.
The
Yes.
last one is, if you're kind and nice to people, then they'll think, oh, those Hare Krishnas, they're
Exactly.
for the first time, because then they might have the opportunity again, and then they'll think, oh yeah, let me try again to go to the temple.
We have to have a grateful